face as well. I'm just giving it a few seconds to see if my laptop is picking it up, and then I'll start going from there. But in case it is working, I'm just going to say now that I am... Yep, okay, it looks like it's working. So I'm going to be doing... Oh, look, it does have my face on there. Perfect. So I am currently in PlanetSide 2 right now. It's one of my favorite games. I've been playing it for quite a while. And I figured I'd do that just because I'm currently going to be talking about the Reclaim Arcade reflection I had, and I figured the face box is really small on my filming thing, and I figured you guys didn't want to just like see a black screen and then my tiny face in the bottom. So I figured I'd fly around a little bit in the like training area of the game, where it's pretty peaceful. Nothing too bad should happen. So I'm just gonna like do loops to do something while I talk. It feels right to play a video game while live streaming it for my reflection. That being said, let me pull up the notes that I have to talk about. So the game I personally really enjoyed at the arcade was Galaga. Galaga was really fun. Like I played it before on like an emulator, and then later after the arcade I tried to find an emulator for it. I tried to find an emulator for it online that wasn't like through TV system or whatever, and I found one, but it was like really fast, like unnaturally fast. Like it shouldn't have been that fast. I don't know. I don't know why it was so fast. Anyway, so it wasn't enjoyable. But being able to play like actual original Galaga was pretty fun. I had a really good time doing that. And so Galaga was manufactured by Midway Manufacturing. It was designed by Hiroshi Ono, and it was distributed by Namco. So description of it is that it was a classic rectangular box shape. Physical description of the arcade box is that it was like the classic boxy shape of an arcade box, which was kind of cool to see. It's about 2 feet wide. I think it's like about my body width and a half or more. So about 2 to 3 feet wide, and approximately like 6 feet, probably more like 7 feet tall. This particular box only had a joystick and a button. And that was, I'll get into that into the gameplay, I think. And I believe the screen for it was an overlay, but I didn't check. All I know is that it did have like the images burned into it a little bit. And I know we talked about that being a thing in a previous class, where like the electrons will laser it into the imaging. So that was kind of neat to like actually see in person. And it cost 25 cents per play. So just like classic quarter setup. The game put so like when it was running just on its own, it put in a gameplay, like a little bit of the gameplay, like an example round. I don't know if it was an actual round. It looked like it. At least it looked really similar to it. So I wouldn't be surprised if it was. But it was just like a regular. It was like the little spaceship moving around, shooting at the aliens, to demonstrate it when it wasn't in play mode, when it was in, I guess, visual mode or attraction mode or whatever it was that it was referenced in the assignment. So the graphics for it were like retro pixel, like 8-bit almost graphics for it. I actually thought it was really detailed when I reflected on it. I actually thought it was like super duper detailed because it had like a whole bunch of little white dots that I guess was representing stars to show that you were in space, which I thought was really neat. Just because like those were like, I guess, randomly put in. Hopefully they weren't manually put in, because that would have been like bad to do. Or like just like difficult and annoying to do. But yeah, like they put like some serious effort into like making the scene, and it also was extremely colorful. So like all the aliens had like unique colors that you could like identify each alien ship off of. And I actually, I mentioned this. So like it definitely had iconic design to it, but it also had the ships set up so that. Was this here? No, I think I'm supposed to talk about this. Yes, in the interpretation part. My bad. Anyway, so yeah, I just thought it was super colorful, super iconic, very cool. And I think the action in it was actually similar to most shooter games, like even this one, right? Like I'm flying a spaceship, da da da. All of a sudden, I see another spaceship and I shoot at it. You know, and theoretically, it would shoot back at me were I not in a controlled environment. But like I thought, like it had like conceptually a simple way to do it. Obviously, this is in a 3D space. It's much more complex to fly around and shoot like 3D objects, basically. Like you're in an actual physical world. Whereas Galaga, it's like a 2D, a little bit more representational than it was like actual, a lot more conceptual, I think. But like I still thought it was really cool. And I still thought it like still had that shooter aspect to it, you know, or like classic first person shooter aspect. So I thought it actually was pretty similar to most games. And let's see. For the game design, I actually thought it was like just action shooter. Like I didn't know what else to call it. Obviously not a first person shooter, but it still had a very cool shooter design. That wasn't the classic, which I appreciated. Oh no. Well, that just happened. I thought that was pretty neat. I was on the high score list, but I think someone in the Discord said that they took the #1 spot. So I don't know. I don't know if I was still on the board by the end of the day, but I think I was close to it. Or I should have been on it. I don't know. I just know I wasn't #1, which sucked. But I was for a little bit. I didn't check at the end to see if I was still on, so hopefully I was. For the mechanics of it, right? So you use that joystick. I said before it had a joystick and a button. So you use the joystick to aim the to move the ships and strafe it back and forth, which allows you to change what you're going to be firing at, and then also change, or also allow you to dodge incoming ships, which I thought was pretty neat. Then it had the button, which was just like your classic regular fire button. Shoots a little laser beam at the alien ships, and if it hits, it kills it. There were some where like it took 2 to hit, but same idea. And the rules for it was just don't die. You have 3 lives, survive as long as you can in increasingly difficult waves. And the waves were a little bit interesting. And the like game design had an interesting way to encourage continued play. So like it made it really frustrating, which seems counterintuitive, but in my experience, a lot of people who like to play games enjoy it for the challenge. So like there's definitely people who that's just not their shtick, and I totally get that. But for me, I started playing it and I was like, oh yeah, I could see why people would spend like $10 playing this game in a single night for 25 cents a round. Absolutely. Like this game, like it was really challenging, especially once you hit the 4th round. So like the first round, I was like, wow, this is like surprisingly difficult. So I wasn't taking it as seriously. And then after I like cracked down a little bit, even then by the 4th round, it was just so difficult to do. It just had like so much. It just had such a fast pace to it that it was really hard to like keep my reaction time in check with what was happening. So I struggled to keep up with it, and that made me want to get better enough to continue to play it. Same reason I played this game, you know? I wasn't good at it, so I wanted to be good, like practice until I got good. So that happened with Galaga, and I think that's the draw for it, is that it's supposed to make it really hard so that way you're just constantly playing those same 3 rounds rather than playing all the way up to round 20 on a single quarter. I think that's the replayability aspect of it. The interpretation of it, so it's a pretty simple game. There's not a lot of interpretation you can put into it, I feel, without purposefully filling in the details with data that just doesn't exist, nor can you even like really extrapolate it, but I will do the best for the purposes of that assignment. Yikes. So the game is about you, the player, flying around in a spaceship, and the spaceship has like that white-red design I was mentioning. So I think that spaceship actually is supposed to like represent like the good guy, because it has like I can't even mention like what specific starfighter it is I'm thinking of. Maybe it's like Star Wars with the white X-wings versus the black TIE fighters, and like there was like that dichotomy of good and evil. So you're the like white and red spaceship. You're the good guy defending or attacking. I talk about that later. But the aliens are just like the bad guys with like these purple green colors. Some of them were blue and red though, as well. So it was just like different coloration, but like they still had some not necessarily like darker colors that you'd be like, oh yeah, this is an evil genius or whatever. Which I thought was interesting. So yeah. Yeah. So like fighting ships that have like a little bit of like a color scheme that implies they could have been evil from our perspective at least. And there's not a lot of clues to what the plot is. Like I said, some of the potential plots I could come up with is like you're the sole survivor of humanity. You're living, or you're like the sole survivor of like a space fleet or something, and you're the whole last line of defense to destroy all these aliens. Or you're like a vanguard for an attacking force, and like you've just run into them, and for some reason you can't escape. Or you just purposefully choose to push them, and try to like take them all yourself, and then inevitably fail. Those are just some like ideas that I came up with. Maybe it's like that Space Invaders game where you're the like last line of defense protecting Earth sort of shtick. But like I said, like we talked about in that discussion, I don't know if it's Earth, so it could be Earth, it could be some other planet. But yeah, so those are all the thoughts I had about the game. Not a lot of like interpretation to go into, literally or metaphorically. Maybe from a more metaphorical stance, you could say it's like a really sad message about the inevitability of death. I think that's taking it too far. It's an arcade game. They're supposed to be inevitably fallible, in order to make companies money. So like that's my more like realistic interpretation of it. But from a metaphorical standpoint, it's a lot like you're the last. Like I could see a movie about Galaga where like you're the last pilot and it has a sad ending where like the pilot inevitably dies because that's just the way it works, you know? So, like, you could read into it if you wanted to. I personally thought this is just a fun game with a fun, very simple control set, very simple mechanic, and a very, very difficult play style. Like in terms of like actually doing it, it's way harder than it seems like it should be. So those are my opinions on the game. I had a great time at the arcade overall. I thought that the entire environment was really fun. And what was very interesting was that I actually showed up first before anyone else showed up. So it was completely empty when they let me in. And it felt weird. I'd never been in like a real arcade scenario before, or like environment before, but I felt weird still being alone in a space that I had seen from Tron that was clearly supposed to be packed with people. And sure enough, once people actually came in, more games were playing, more like loud sounds were happening, conversation going on, then it started to feel like a true arcade, and I was like, wow, like I can see why people would come to this. I would probably love to come to this. And I love the dark environment of it. Like, it kind of reminded me of like Vegas, like casinos and hotels, where the goal behind it is that they're trying to make you not realize what time it is, so you stay for longer. Because it was purely daytime outside, like midday, and it felt like it was the middle of the night, just because it was so dark in there. And when I walked out, I had to like squint my eyes, and I was like, wow, this is bright. Just because I was not expecting. I just wasn't prepared mentally for that. So, environment itself is really cool, and yeah, like just like I know there's like a lot of social experiments where it's like do something socially unconventional. So like that felt like being in a socially unconventional space where it's like, yeah, I'm in this space and there's no one else here. That's unconventional and weird to me. And I it's not that I didn't like it. I was just like not expecting it. It just felt a little odd to do. So yeah, but like overall, I had a really good time going there, and I got to talk to a lot of my classmates, which was pretty fun. There were some team games that like I traded off. I remember Elisa and I, we were actually switching between two machines. So we were playing the Donkey Kong Mario game, And then the Diddy, or not the Diddy Kong, but like the Baby Donkey Kong video game that was right next to it, like those two boxes. So we were playing those together, and what we did was we like did two-player version of it on the Donkey Kong, where you just like trade off, and it's like a direct competition, who can do the most sort of shtick. Is sort of like the idea behind, like, I guess the way that that game was defined. But then when one of us was not playing the our turn for that Donkey Kong game, we switched to the Baby Donkey Kong game where we were trying to rescue Donkey Kong from Mario this time. And it was really interesting to like bounce around like that because it was like constant action. Like neither of us stopped. Like we just had to like keep switching off. Also, the fact that both of our skill levels were relatively bad for games that we'd never played before helped a lot. So that was kind of that was fun to do. It was just a good experience, and it was nice like being able to get interaction with other people, as well as like it wasn't just like a solo experience like I was expecting to be. It was way more social than I was thinking, and I thought that was really fun and really cool. Overall, good experience. I would absolutely go there again. Probably, despite how stingy I am as a person, I would probably spend money there if I were to go again, which surprised me. I was not expecting that. So I had a really good experience, and I hope y'all enjoyed me just messing around doing this while I said my shtick. And yeah, have a good one.